We're going to look at least common multiple or lowest common multiple and highest common factor. It's also called greatest common factor. So the two things you need to know is basically what's a multiple and what's a factor. So a multiple is any number. Basically, when you think about your times tables, it multiplies a number by like a factor. So it could be like by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. So for example, I'll give you some examples. If we had the number 2, all the multiples of 2 are basically all the times tables of 2. So they would be like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So multiples, the big thing to know with multiples is that these are bigger than what you start with. So the difference between a multiple and a factor is that factors are going to be smaller than what you start with. So another example, you might think about the multiples of 4. What are all the multiples of 4? Have a think to yourself what those are before I write them down. So the multiples of 4 would be things like 4. Always start with the number that you have. So you start with 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And you can actually put dots at the end too. Now the dots at the end mean that you could keep going on forever and ever, but you basically just stop because, you don't want to write things forever and ever. So multiples always include the number you start with, and they're all of the times tables that are bigger than that number. So for example, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so if we were looking at what's called the least common multiple or lowest common multiple, this is on the worksheet that you'll have. So basically we're looking at finding the multiples of two numbers. So in this case, the multiples of 2 and 3. So you can see that we've got lists here which have all the multiples of 2, all the multiples of 3. We're asked to find the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3. So what we do after we've found all the multiples, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 goes on, and 3, 6, 9 goes on, we try and find a number that's in common with the two lists. So we basically keep going on and on until we hit a number that's the same. So you can see in each list here, we've got common multiples. We've got a 6 is common, we've got a 12 is common, and 18 is common. So these are what we call common multiples of 2 and 3. They're common because they're the same in each list. If we wanted to find the least common multiple, that would be finding the common multiple, so what's in common between the two lists, but the lowest. So you can see here the lowest number that's in common is the number 6. So that's why we would say the LCM of 2 and 3 is 6. The lowest common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. So if we had another example here, this is on the worksheet. So multiples of, it says find the lowest common multiple of 3 and 4. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, all of your times tables. And the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. It asks us what are the common multiples. So look in both your lists what's in common between them. The number 12 is the same. So is the number 24. So 12 and 24 are what we'd call common multiples. They are the same in each list. What's the lowest common multiple? It's the lowest number that's the same. So it's 12. So on your worksheet, these are some of the questions that you've got. For example, I might just start with B, so you can see. What I would do is on your worksheet, I'd probably write down the multiples of each number. So for example, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and you probably want to do this in your book so that you have, enough room. Otherwise, you're probably going to run out of room. And then we're going to do the multiples. This is lowest common multiples of 4 and 10. So multiples of 4, multiples of 10. And you probably know already that the thing you're going to have in common in these two lists, the lowest number, it's the same, is going to be 20. You can see here that you've got common multiples like 40 is common as well, but the lowest common one is actually 20 because it's the smallest number. It's the first number that's the same. So you actually could stop once you hit a number that's the same. Okay, so that's multiples. Next thing you need to know is how to work with factors. So factors are all about the numbers that divide into something. So for example, the number 12 can be written as 3 times 4, can be written as 2 times 6, and it can be written as 1 times 12. So the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So these 6 numbers, I've written them in a list. So you can see here we've also got, in this example, they've done factors of 12. They've also looked at factors of 20. So the factors of 20, for example, I'll do this underneath number 20, would be 2 times 10, 4 times 5, and 1 times 20. Always remember you've got 1 times the number. There's always 1 and the number itself. So you can see in the list of factors there you would have 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. There are factors. And you can see they've been put here in a list for you. So when we look at what's called the greatest common factor, again, common means something that's the same in each list. So we look for what's in common, but we look for the largest thing that's in common. So if we look at these two lists, you can see that we've got 2 is in common, 1 is in common, 4 is in common, but the greatest common factor is the biggest one. So it's this one, the number 4. So greatest common factor is 4. So the first question on your worksheet is this one. Find the greatest common factor of 8 and 12. The first thing it says is list the factors of 8. 8 is going to be like 2 times 4 or 8 times 1. So my factors are 1, 2, 4, and 8. 12 would be like 2 times 6, 3 times 4, 1 times 12. That's about it. So the factors are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. It says find the common factors. So look in your two lists, what is in common? The number 1 is in common. So that one. The number 2 is in common. So that's a common factor. The number 4 is in common. So that's a common factor. The last thing is what's the greatest common factor? The greatest common factor is what's the biggest number here in this common factors list, and that is the number 4. So remember that factors are always going to be smaller numbers than what you started with, whereas when we look at things like multiples, multiples are always bigger. So in your book, I would definitely write down the notes that we've had and also click on the worksheet. You'll just have to do the worksheet in your book today, just because I'm not there to print it out. So the worksheet is the link underneath this video, and good luck.